Hey, welcome back to Right on the Money, your go-to resource for the financial topics that matter to you. Now, if you're just joining us, our guest today, Tim Tremblay, Tremblay Financial Services out of Santa Barbara. And our topic today, we're going to talk about a big problem in the country today, and that's rampant financial illiteracy. And right before we went to break, I gave a startling statistic that 64% of Americans are literally living paycheck to paycheck. You just wrote an article that went into the Santa Barbara news press, and just literally just a couple weeks ago. Before we even get into the article, I do have to say, the fact that not only are you writing articles for the Santa Barbara news press, but you used to deliver the doggone thing as a kid.
That was one of my first businesses. I was a paper boy for the Santa Barbara news press.
There we go.
I learned a lot of good lessons from that job.
Now, speaking of lessons, before we get into that, I do know that one of the things that is very near and dear to you is giving back to the community. Mm-hmm. And I know that you do a lot with, especially youth in Santa Barbara. Tell me what you're doing there.
Well, there's a group in Santa Barbara, it's called the Santa Barbara Athletic Roundtable. Mm-hmm. And we raise money for the youth, and particularly in sports, for both boys and girls, men and women, high school, junior college, and college level. And we not only encourage, but we help some of these teams to function and continue to give that very important service to our kids. When I look at the classes that kids can take where you'd learn the most, it's from athletics. You learn teamwork, paying the price, doing what it takes on the off-season, practice, all those things to get ready for one game. A football player practices and works out all year long for the opportunity to maybe play 10 or 11 games. And a lot of those guys don't play first string. They come in and play a little bit. Yep. So that really teaches some great lessons that carry on in life. And so that's something that we're really active in Santa Barbara.
Discipline, preparation, I think that could apply to finances. And so let's talk a little bit about this article you wrote. What caused you to write it, the rampant financial illiteracy? What were you seeing?
Well, so often we see young people coming into our office that don't really even have a clue about some really basic things. How to work a checkbook, how to have a checking account should be so simple. How to budget, how to plan for your future. There's so many things that are so important that have really been neglected with our youth. And a lot of that, I think, goes to the educational institutions that we have, both high school and college. Mm-hmm. They haven't prepared our kids. And some of the problem is the parents. We have these helicopter parents that are doing everything for their kids, including their finances. And by the time they get out of college, that study that I talked about in that article, 53% of college graduates don't have a clue on what to do with their finances. And that's sad. You should be learning as you go how to take care of some of those responsibilities. Don't get out there and now all of a sudden you're going to try to figure it out after you've had everything taken care of you for so many years.
Yeah. We're not setting them up for success.
Exactly.
Speaking of setting up for success, so you work with a lot of folks that are getting close to retirement or are retired. Are there any lessons that you have to teach them or maybe remind them of as they come in to see you?
When we look at retirement planning, the first thing we do is we sit down and we say, okay, we have to have a budget for what you're going to need for retirement. Mm-hmm. Then we have to look at the resources that you have to give you that kind of budget. And if you don't have the resources in place to do so, it's going to take a lot of work to get you there. And it's just a simple mathematic problem that you have to take care of when you're looking at those situations. It's not opinions. It's very simple. And I think if you can bring it down to that level with clients so that they understand either you're going to make some changes in how you spend your money and you're going to invest and prepare for that retirement, or you're going to stretch out the time you're going to continue to work. There are simple decisions that you're going to have to make that have repercussions that are going to take place now for your future.
I love in your article you say, I glanced at it at the corner of my eye because I highlighted it, personal finance is 20% knowledge and 80% behavior.
Absolutely. You can know, but if you don't go out there and act on it, it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. You have to take charge of your finances. And you talk about people with 100,000 or more income that are having problems, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm seeing folks with 300,000, 400,000 in income that are paycheck to paycheck. So it's not just the high earners, it's what are you doing with that money? I can show you examples of folks with $40,000, $50,000 income that are in great shape for retirement because they planned and they did things appropriately as they prepared for that retirement. So it's not the money that you're making, it's what you do with that money in preparing for your future that is so important.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk. I'm going to ask you a couple questions because the article you've got some great pointers on how to get started, what to do. Also, one surprising thing that I think is going to surprise most investors at the bottom of the article. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to ask you a little bit about the state of retirement in general. So, folks, you do not want to miss that. You want to come back. We'll be back here with Tim right after the break.